Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Homebrew Buffoonery. This is the cat. Okay, so never worked with animals or children, and I do with both. But today's brew day is a Munich Dunkel, which is something that I spoke about in another video when I put all my ingredients onto a forum and said, what beers can I make? And one of them was a Munich Dunkel, so this is what I'm going to do today. And the recipe is pretty straightforward. See you later, cat. It's 900 grams of Maris Otter, 250 grams of Vienna malt, 50 grams of sort of crystal 250-ish, 50 grams of pale chocolate malt, and 50 grams of flaked wheat. Hops wise, I'm going to use 5 grams of Hallertau at 60 minutes and 5 grams of Hallertau at 15 minutes during the boil. And then I'm just going to pitch some Whirlflock in 15 minutes from the end as well. And then we'll get it cooled down and we'll use the US05 yeast because it's end of month and I haven't got any money for some fancy yeasts yet. So we'll have to use bog standard US05. I'm thinking as well that I might just reduce the temperature of the mash from 66, 67-ish, which is what I'm doing, to 64, just to see what happens. I've put all my numbers into Brewer's Friend and everything's come up green, so I'm happy with that. So we're sort of ready to get going with the mash there. And the only other new thing for today is that I've got a refractometer. Yay Santa! So when the mash is on, I'll have a quick talk through that with you and show you how I set it up and what you can expect to see when you look through the eyepiece. Okay, so we're at 68 degrees now, so I'm going to add in, start mashing in with my malt. It's at 68 degrees, don't need to go any higher because I've got a little burner on and it'll hold the temperature really nicely. So all I need to do is start mashing in. Okay, so there we are. We're actually just slightly over on 65 degrees, so I've turned the heat off. I'm going to let it come back down to 64 and then I'm going to leave it for about 15 minutes because I'm not going to recirculate for 15 minutes. I'm just going to give it a bit of a stirrer every 5 minutes and then I'll recirculate for the last 45 just to see if I can get some more initial dissolving of the sugars into the wort, and then we'll see how it goes from there. Because the efficiency of the boils recently hasn't been brilliant, but that's something that we can check with the refractometer. Okay, so just whilst we're waiting for the mash to progress, we'll just quickly go through the BJCP style guidelines for Munich Dunkel, which is section 8A, I do believe. So overall, it says that it's a beer with a deep richness typical of darker malts. That's a dark copper or dark brown in appearance. Well, the crystal malt and the pale chocolate malt will see to that, no bother. Flavour wise, it says it's got a soft and rich complex malt flavour, when it could, because of the dark malts, give you a toasty bread crust kind of flavour in there, which I would really like to taste. But without any of the harshness of the burntness of it. You could also, because of the crystal malt, the smell of it, it's really caramelly and really quite nutty, and you should find some of that in the flavour as well, and maybe a little bit of chocolate. I suppose if there's no chocolate in it, would you put little bits of chocolate in it, maybe? I don't know. Hops wise, because I'm only using 5 grams at 60 minutes of boil and 10 grams at 15, not 5 like I said earlier on, the bitterness isn't too much, and the general balance of the beer is more towards the malt flavours. History wise, so this is the classic dark lager of Munich, and it's darker than a lot of the other regional beers apparently, and even though it was made in Munich, it's become very popular in Bavaria and surrounding parts. And in comparison to other beers, it's not as intense as a Bock, which is something that I might give a go to. I might give a go to all three of these actually. But it does say it's not as intense as a Bock, so it's more drinkable. Yay! It's not as roasted as a Schwarz beer, so maybe there's more dark malts in the Schwarz beer, because Schwarz is German for black, isn't it? And it's more malty and less hoppy than a dark Czech lager. So that's a quick run through of the Dunkel BJCP 8A. Okay, so bang on 64 degrees now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn my pump on. I've put my little recirculation lock line spargy arm thingy down. All the things are pointing where they should do. What I need to do is open. Ooh, it's leaking. Right, so let's close that. And oh dear, it's leaking. Oh dear, we'll be back in a minute. Okay, let's have another go. So we're going to open now. And that is now not leaking, which is good. My valve there is marginally open. We'll just close that a little bit. And then everything's pointing there. In 3, 2, 1. Oh, that's a bit harsh. Turn it down on the edges. So there you go. We've got about 45 minutes left in the mash. Okay, so like I said before, I've got myself a refractometer, and basically what it's for is to check the sugar content of your wort before you send it to boil. Now I've looked on my figures on Brewer's Friend, and the pre-boil gravity is 1036, so I'm going to keep that in mind as the mash progresses. We're about 10 minutes in at the minute. But the refractometer, this is something that I got from Santa, is basically comes in a hard plastic case like this one. Well, this one does anyway, and it's got a little bit of an instructions, which is dead easy to do. A little bit of a cleaning cloth. It's got 2 little pipettes, so you can drip your wort or your water on the lens, and it's got the little screwdriver. It's a little flathead screwdriver. Might be useful for something else. That's quite sturdy as well, actually. And then the actual refractometer itself. So the basic parts are, this is your eyepiece, and you can turn this to focus it, because when I looked at it, it's out of focus. So I just twisted it a couple of ways, and it came into really, really sharp focus, especially when you point it at the daylight. And then underneath this little cap, there is a little adjustment screw. And what I did was I put a couple of drops of, lifted the lid up there, put a couple of drops of water just on the blue bit there, pointed it at the daylight, and it comes up with like a blue and a white crosshair on a what do you call it? On like a grading system. It's got bricks on one side, but it's got specific gravity points on the other side, and that's what I wanted, specific gravity points, because I don't understand bricks. I think it's 1 to 4 maybe, but I don't understand. And so what I do to calibrate it, you put a couple of drops of water on the end, and you hold it up to the light, and there's a very definite blue line, as you can see, and then you just turn the screwdriver in the little adjustment screw until the line hits 0, and then it should be calibrated. You should use distilled water, but you know, 0.1 of a gravity point here or there, I don't think it makes much difference. So I'm looking forward to using that. It's no good after the boil apparently, or no good after fermentation. That's what it is. So you can use it at the end of the boil as well to check your final gravity, but it's no good, your original gravity, sorry, but it's no good after the fermentation, because the alcohol sends it a bit loopy, and I don't know why, but it does. So there you go. That was my refractometer, which came from Amazon apparently and cost about 18 quid, something like that. Yay. Okay, so we're about 25 minutes into the boil, and I thought I'd just have a quick check. And so after 25 minutes, I'll just point up to my big light here. I am currently on 10:29. So that's quite a lot of conversion really, isn't it, in 25 minutes? I'm going to have another check in another 15 minutes, and I'm going to have another check in after an hour and see if I'm getting up to that 10:36 pre-boil, which is what Brewer's Friend says, which is awesome. Okay, so I've had a quick look, we've got 15 minutes left. I've had a quick look in the old refractometer and it's only gone up to 10:32 in the last 15 minutes or so. So that means the majority, that's like what, 95% of the sugar conversion happens in the first half hour or so, which is interesting. Well, I'm going to give it another 15 minutes and I'll check again, but I think I might keep mashing until I hit that 10:36 and see how we go from there. Okay, so we're up to boil now, and there's my 5 grams of hallertau to go in, and we'll see you again at 15 minutes from the end of the boil, where we're going to add in our 10 grams of hallertau for a bit of aroma and maybe some flavour, and then a minute after that we'll put in some whorl flock and it'll be time to cool it down. Okay, so we've 15 minutes to go in the boil, and there's my 10 grams of hallertau for a bit of aroma and a bit of flavour. I'm just going to give it a minute and then I'm going to pop some whorl flock in. You don't need to see that, it's a bit of powder on the end of a spoon, it fizzes. I've just taken another reading with the refractometer and I'm at 10:48. So I've only 3 points to go till I hit my target. So I'm right happy with that refractometer. It's good, you can keep a check, a really good accurate check on where you're at and how your beer's progressing. It's great. Okay, so I'm just cooling the work down now. I've hit my target bang on 151 because basically I waited until it hit the target, which I suppose is the joy of the refractometer. It tells you exactly what specific gravity, original gravity you are. And now all I'm doing is cooling it down, which is going very well. And next time you'll see me will be racking it into demijohn and adding the yeast and having a bit more of a waffle. Okay, so I've transferred it into my demijohn, and it started off really lovely and clean because I'd whirlpooled it for and left it for half an hour, but I've dipped into the end of the bottom of the mash tun and all sorts of nonsense got in there, but it was lovely and clean. That's all going to settle out because of the whorl flock. So all I've got left to do really is pitch me some US-05. I'm going to use half of that as a 2/3 of a pack. Use half of that, stick her understairs in that there brewery, and see what happens from that. Look out for the tasting video. So I do have to say I'm a proper fan of the refractometer. You can keep a proper close eye on all your gravity measures throughout the whole mash and the boil, and you can get it to exactly as you want it. And I'm right happy with it, so that's going to be incorporated into every brew day from now on. So it's bye-bye to the hydrometer, which I quite like because it sort of felt like a bit like a mad scientist when I was using that. But never mind, technology ever onwards. So that's it for another brew day. Look out for the tasting video, which will be up in several weeks. And as usual, you can like and you can subscribe. And you could leave a comment if you wanted. And why don't you go out and brew something Dunkel?